Hey, YouTubers, something important, something goddamn important. So, I have an ramble right now. Nice big ass ramble like the big ass cigar, being silly ass like the big ass cigar. So, another health related topic right now. So, yes, another health related topic about tobacco. Now, I understand some people don't like these topics, but I want to do it myself. So, if you choose to watch, that's your own personal choice, your own personal opinion to watch, just like your asshole. Anyway, enough of that crap. So, basically, this topic is about why some smokers or certain smokers, big ass smokers like the big ass cigar, are scared potentially of smoking because of the possible risk of cancer and other health problems. Now you might say, obviously smokers know damn well that smoking can cause health problems, and I'm the first one to admit, obviously smoking is bad for you, all tobacco use is bad for you, all tobacco, all nicotine, all drugs are bad for you, and obviously, drugs are bad, okay, so it's like, essentially, if you're not a smoker, you're not a user, please don't start. It's never a good habit to start, period. I mean, no drug in general is good to start. Even freaking coffee, it's like, even damn coffee, it's like, So, anyway, enough of that crap. So basically, another reason why certain tobacco users are very apprehensive or scared of the potential side effects, because obviously there are many side effects to tobacco products, like for example cancer, heart disease, emphysema, COPD, chronic bronchitis, potential cancers of the stomach, esophagus, colon, lungs, liver, pancreas. I think I said that already. There are potential risk for stroke, erectile dysfunction, for example. Sorry, I just got crap in my ear. So, yeah. There's a lot of different health problems that can come from tobacco products. And why are some people more scared than other people? And part of it is, and a lot of people don't think about this crap, a lot of people don't think about this, but actually, and by the way, I'm not a doctor. Just want to get that disclaimer right off the bat. I'm not a fucking doctor, so this is not professional medical advice. This is just general information. Part of the reason a lot of people left dilly-dallying, a lot of people are very scared, is because most of the health problems that smokers are at risk for have very bad prognoses. So most of the cancers that smokers are at risk for, like lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, stomach cancer, esophageal cancer, liver cancer, have very bad prognoses. Sorry. So that's part of the reason smokers are very apprehensive and scared in general. It's like, you might say, well, if you get cancer, like BFD, it's like, what's the big deal? It's like, you get cancer, it can be treated, but actually the majority of cancers that the smokers and tobacco users are at risk for have very bad outlooks. It's not like getting a little skin cancer on your face, like a little basal cell, where it's like, don't get me wrong, skin cancer is dangerous, but you get a little like basal cell on your face, it's like, oh, just remove that, small stitches, it's no problem, very slow growing. Most of the cancers, unfortunately, this is the sad reality, the sad shit reality, is the majority of cancers that smokers are at risk for, and this also goes for chewing tobacco users and dipping tobacco users, and is basically the majority of cancers they're at risk for have very bad outlooks. Now, some smokers get cancer and survive, but oftentimes the side effects are very devastating. So they don't just like live happily ever after. So it's like, a lot of them end up having severe surgeries, reconstructive surgeries, have life-changing effects like, a permanent tracheotomy. They end up having permanent neurological damage, in the case of a stroke, permanent scarring in the case of like a heart attack. They don't really just like live happily ever after, and it's like, it's not like somebody who found like a little spot on their face and went to the doctor and has like a little scar that's barely noticeable. It's like, most people who develop cancer from tobacco use have some permanent side effects at a minimum, and a lot of them unfortunately die. So that's the really sad outlook, is the majority of cancers that you're at risk for being a smoker, myself included, scary as hell, do not have very good outlooks. It's like, oral cancer, while it can have a very good outlook, it's usually not caught early, and by the time it's caught, it usually requires significant reconstructive surgery, significant surgery, months and months of treatment, months of radiation, months of chemotherapy, significant surgery, very disfiguring, just not very good in general. Yeah, scary as hell. Yeah, scary as hell to think about. And you might say, well, just quit then. I'm not going to quit. I'm a hypocrite myself. You can bitch at me all you want, but I'm not going to quit myself. But that's part of the reason a lot of smokers can be very scared of the health problems, is because the majority of cancers they're at risk for have very bad outlooks in general. Cigarette smokers, probably the biggest risk is lung cancer, has a very poor prognosis. Very poor prognosis, very crappy prognosis. Most people who get lung cancer will die. So that's part of the reason. It's not like getting like a little bit of like a flu or a cold, where it's like, oh, just take this medication, you'll be better in 2 weeks. Very poor prognosis. There are some smokers who get lung cancer who unfortunately, fortunately, survive it, but oftentimes have life-changing effects and are never the same again. And what's interesting, that's actually kind of interesting from a medical standpoint, is when you get these cancers as a non-smoker, because there are people who get lung cancer who are non-smokers, is actually the non-smokers tend to have better outlooks than the smokers. For people who are non-smokers who get throat cancer, tend to have better outcomes than smokers. And part of the reason is because their bodies are healthier and they're less damaged by the effects of tobacco. So, non-smokers who get throat cancer or mouth cancer tend to have better outcomes than people who are smokers or chewing tobacco users who get mouth cancer or throat cancer. For example, people who are never smokers who get lung cancer tend to have much better outlooks than, for example, people who, not always, but also, and sometimes in some cases, people who are never smokers who get lung cancer, their cancer is a lot less aggressive. Not always, and please don't sue my ass like the big ass cigar, but a lot of times their cancer, because it's not spurred from years of tobacco use, it's not nearly as aggressive, and a lot of times it's a lot more slow growing, and a lot of times their treatment outcomes are a lot better. So that's part of the reason, to sum it all up in one big gist, that's part of the reason smokers are kind of gloomy, is because essentially the cancers they're at risk for, pancreatic cancer, very poor prognosis, esophageal cancer, very poor prognosis, stomach cancer, very poor prognosis. The only cancer I can think of off the top of my head that has a very good prognosis in general that smokers are at risk for, like a big cancer that smokers are at risk for, is bladder cancer. Now, a lot of people with bladder cancer do die, but bladder cancer in general actually is one of the few cancers that smokers are at risk for, which is cancer involving your piss. It's like, actually in most cases, has a relatively good prognosis. That's what I have heard and read from different studies. Obviously, when it's not caught early, it has a not so good prognosis, but bladder cancer, when caught early, actually has a very good prognosis. The key is catching it early, which a lot of smokers don't catch their cancers early. So, but that's interesting that bladder cancer actually has a fairly good prognosis, even though it's usually caused by smoking. It's one of the few exceptions to the rule. It's the exception to the rule. Anyway, have a nice day. Pretty damn cool. Bye-bye.